This is Peter Firmsdale, who's an outreach specialist with the Deaf and Hard of Hearing agency, and this is Mike Ernst, who's going to translate for him. And please, since there's just a few of us, we have lots of opportunities for questions, and please take advantage and make the most of this time with us. And thank you for being with us today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. You want to sit down? I prefer to stand. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Fida. Most of the information is on the PowerPoint. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hands. I'm deaf. I can't speak for myself, but I tend to use Mike as an interpreter to help facilitate communication between us. So don't worry about that. He's a little strange, but just ignore him. Also, now, Virginia Department for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing provides services in Richmond from the state office. I don't work there in the state office. I'm a contractor for the Shenandoah Valley area. We have offices all over the state for outreach. And we have a number of different topics, and I'm going to talk about all of these. Not in any depth. Not in any depth. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to challenge you a little bit, see if you can answer these questions. What causes hearing loss?
Loud sounds. Loud sounds.
Loud sounds, sickness. Any more?
Genetics.
Age, genetics. Very good. Good. You all have a good idea. Better than some groups that I've addressed. Sometimes an accident in a car can cause temporary or permanent hearing loss, either one. But it varies with each individual. You'll notice this word here, ototoxic medicine. Sometimes the medication that you take and maybe other medications will have a contraindicated effect. Sometimes there's a certain type of drug that can cause nerve damage in your ear. Most medications out there will have some kind of an effect. And most medication that we use, maybe 60% of them are considered ototoxic. Like Tylenol, aspirin. Some of them are everyday medications that we take. If you take one medication and another, there can be a conflict. And maybe some people are not aware of that. Obviously, if you notice something happening, then contact your doctor immediately if you're taking different kinds of medication. FYI, one other thing. I don't know if you... Grapefruit also. Sometimes if you eat grapefruit, that can magnify the drug exposure for 5 days. Yeah, 5 times worse sometimes if you take a medication and then you eat grapefruit. That can be 5 times stronger, the medication effect.
Is that true for oranges?
No, I don't think for oranges.
Just the citric, this would be grapefruit.
Is that any medication?
Almost all medications. 60 or 70%.
Wow. Never knew that.
Yeah, perhaps the grapefruit diet is not good. I'm not going to say that. Don't stop eating healthy foods now.
Wow.
I forgot. That's something I wanted to say, but it slipped my mind. These are some signs of hearing loss. If you notice a decrease in hearing, through common sense, you can feel when you're beginning to have a sometimes slurring speech. Sometimes that's from hearing loss, but sometimes a mild stroke, people can slur their speech and people may think their hearing is gone down. And there are people who aren't aware, and that obviously can be serious later on. Just recently on Monday, someone wasn't aware that I was working. I don't think she knew we were talking, and I wasn't sure if it was hearing loss or a stroke. Now here's some brief statistics on hearing loss. This is the dry part of the presentation. This is the the United States Census for 2000. And they, at that time, figured about 10% of the population here had a documented hearing loss. Okay. But in 2008, there was a college survey. Right, 2008, there was a college. And they found the number closer to 20%. Wow. And that was based on a random sample on the street. People who were just out on the streets, they did a random sample and asked them questions about hearing loss. And they found it was closer to 20%. Maybe that means that there are another 10% who aren't aware of it or are in denial and don't admit they have a hearing loss. So we're waiting for the new census information. When we see those results, we'll have a better idea. Okay, next slide. College students related to here at Washington and Lee. Recently, a few months ago, some information came out that about 20% of college students have a measurable hearing loss. Maybe it's enough to interfere with their ability to hear and listen properly. Maybe they're listening to a presentation or a speech for 1 hour. Maybe there's some misunderstandings. They may misunderstand 20% of the information. The cause is unknown because this is brand new research, but we suspect the MP3s, the iPods, that may be part of the cause. It's very, very interesting. Clearly, you should be aware that older people have hearing loss. It starts after 65, about 33%, or about 1/3 of people have a hearing loss. And that increases after 75, it's about, goes up to 47% of the population has a hearing loss. At 85, it's closer to 60% of the population has a hearing loss. So you can see how these percentages increase according to age. Now, people with hearing loss, the majority of them do not use hearing aids. Only 20% do. I'm in the minority because I do use a hearing aid. And perhaps it's because of the cost of hearing aids. And your vision doesn't get better if you have a hearing loss. There's no substitute for better vision with less hearing. However, there is some new research that's finding out, and this doesn't surprise me at all, for people who have grown up deaf, maybe they were born deaf. I was born deaf, hard of hearing and deaf. At 7 months, they noticed that I had a hearing loss. Okay, you've already trained your brain to take in visual information. So the more information, not better vision, but you just take in information better through the eyes. So deaf people are very good at grabbing and perceiving visual information. That's... Yeah, this will take just a moment.
Not much, I'm afraid, because I was sick in bed with the flu.
No, I hope you're feeling better now.
Getting there, I hope. I'll live.
My mum always used to give us peach juice when we were sick. She still swears by it.
Really? Well, I should probably just stick to lots of sleep for now.
Now that's normal hearing. This will try to give you an idea about what some of your students may hear with reduced hearing.
No, I'm not afraid, because I was sick in bed with the flu.
I hope you're feeling better now.
Getting there, I hope. I'll live.
My mum always used to give us peach juice when we were sick. She still swears by it.
Really? Well, I should probably just stick to lots of sleep for now.
And that's a mild hearing loss. A little bit worse than maybe some of your students have. And some of them may suffer a little more hearing loss. Remember I said 20% have measurable hearing loss. Only 10% of that group had something similar to that, a mild hearing loss. And sometimes in a loud classroom, there are echoes, the sound reflects off the walls, that interferes and makes it even more difficult during class discussion. So there are ways to acoustically reduce that, the echo. My hearing loss is worse than that. I'm in the last category, moderate to severe. But I can hear better with my hearing aids. When I take my hearing aids off, this is what speech sounds like to me. Now, basically, the point of this is that people should check their hearing with a doctor or with an audiologist to make sure it's something that can be eliminated with medication. And maybe they have earwax in their ears. Maybe it's something easy to remove. If you can cure it with medication, but you want to make sure that at the first sign of this, you do take steps so that it doesn't damage your hearing. I want to keep it short, so if you have any questions about that. Okay, let me go on. FYI, hearing aid, a good hearing aid costs between $1,000 to $3,000 each. Okay. But most insurance does not cover the cost of hearing aids. Maybe that's why we have that 20% figure of people who need hearing aids, but only 20% purchase them. Most people have Medicare, and you can add this Medicare Advantage, okay? And that covers eyeglasses and hearing aids. Most all states cover that. They have that included in their coverage, and Virginia does as well as an option. You pay a supplement for that, but that can give you up to $1,000 towards the cost of the purchase of a hearing aid, and it's better than nothing. There are other options for people who need to have hearing aids, and we'll talk about that. I have information on those. There are several programs in the state that provide financial assistance for people in purchasing hearing aids. There are about 24 programs here in Virginia. And I think I've got the information here if you're interested in that. And you can feel free to take that information. Now, briefly, let me talk about fire alarms. Many people rent homes. And here in Virginia, there are several laws that apply to rentals. The landlord generally is responsible for providing a fire alarm. A deaf person has to ask for an alarm, and the landlord has to provide one. They're required to do that for the renter's safety. and that's under the housing development. There are 3 or 4 different laws related to that, and it depends on what situation applies. America's American with Disability Act requires that public places. So here, you've got the strobe light fire alarm over there, and that's required by the Americans with Disability Act. And it depends on the situation, it depends on the placement as to what law applies. And they're not cheap. These are not cheap. They're about $180. Some fire departments are willing to donate them if you can go through, and it doesn't hurt to go to the local fire department to see if they'll provide the assistance. Now, I represent the Technology Assistance Program as an outreach specialist. Anyone with a hearing loss who lives in Virginia, they're the only 2 requirements. They can apply for assistance through the TAP program for equipment. I can't guarantee that all equipment is given away free, but about 80% of my applicants who fill out forms get free equipment through the TAP program, because of the level of their earnings. We have a very, very generous and flexible guideline for income. These are some of the examples of equipment that I will show you. We can provide doorbells. There are doorbells that are very loud. There are baby cry alarms for deaf people who take care of their grandchildren and want to hear their alerts. There are Alert Master series for both alarms, light alarms, and door alarms. This is a doorbell alarm that has a flashing light attached. It's just a small light. Some people like this. Hard of hearing people like this. We have another option for deaf people like myself. When I take off my hearing aids, I can't hear that mild bell. Okay, with my hearing aid on, I can't hear that. But most of the time, I take my hearing aid out at home. This is a bed shaker. This is an alarm clock, and you can either plug a lamp into it to show the visual display, or you can plug in the bed shaker. If you sleep real well and don't wake up, that bed shaker will wake you up. And that also makes a sound too, the alarm does it. We don't provide that particular alarm clock. We do provide this alarm clock. Okay. This doesn't make the sound. This only uses the bed shaker and a plug-in for a lamp. It's very nice thing to have. The other benefit of this is there are different symbols on it. There's a display. It'll tell you if it's the door, the telephone, just a loud noise in the house. So when you look at the display, you know which one it is. With that, you really don't know. You have to look at the light. And sometimes they have different rhythms or patterns of the light that will tell you what it is. But most people don't memorize those. Yeah, you just don't want to go all the way around your house and say, okay, is it the baby? Is it the door? Is it the phone? But this will tell you. This is a lot easier. We have options for amplified phones as well. This is a caption phone called a CapTel. This is an amplified phone here. This is a TTY, where you type back and forth. And there's several options. Depending on your level of hearing loss, we have different phones that try to match your preference for communication. We provide these to all the people who are in Virginia and have hearing loss. We don't force you to take one or the other, there are options. he doesn't censor or add to what I say, he just facilitates what I say. Now, the service itself is free. However, for long distance calls, you have to pay the long distance charges. That service is not free. You have to pay for long distance, the same as you would with a regular phone bill. Same thing. No change from that. It doesn't impact your phone bill for local calls. Yeah, local is free, long distance you have to pay. You may have to pay just a little bit for long distance because the communication takes a little bit longer to go through the relay, transferring type information back and forth. But there's also a program to give a discount to deaf people for their long distance charges. The relay service is open 24 hours a day, so they never close. The federal and state laws require that. And here's some more options you can have through the Virginia relay. They have English to Spanish to sign language translation. They have conference calls. If you have a speech disability as well, they have a program for that. That's good for people who've had strokes and whose speech is a little difficult to understand. They have a lot of different options, and they try to match so many individuals with disabilities. This is a general picture of the caption phone and how it works. It's different from the TTY relay. Okay, you would call. Okay, here's the captions that you see on the screen. Let me set this up.
Reset what that thing is.
You can make I'm trying to make the font bigger on the phone. Okay, now this is for someone. There you go. This is very good for older people. And you can increase the font size. That's medium size right now. And you can make it larger. A lot of older people, right, they have visual issues, macular, they have macular degeneration sometimes. And that can make the words larger to help them. Also, before I forget, this phone is really for people who have speech. Older people who've lost their hearing who still have speech. They perhaps are hard of hearing, or maybe now their hearing loss has grown worse. So they know how to speak through the phone, but they can't hear, so they read what's being said on the other end of the line. Another benefit is that you can save the captions for later review. You call your doctor, and he says your appointment's at 3, and you hang up the phone, and I'm going, what time was that? What time did he say? I forgot to put it down. You can find it on the caption stored on the telephone. That's really cool. You don't have to call back again and say, what time was that? Don't have to go through all the waiting in the menu. You have it there on the CapTel. Also, they have Spanish captions as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier about options to hearing aids, this is an older model of the Pocket Talker. Here's the new model. Here's a better design now. This is very powerful. I can hear with this myself. A lot of people like this, and many people get this free through VDDHH. Sometimes I'll give it to a person, they'll use this until they can save enough money to purchase a hearing aid for themselves. The reason, and the good reason and sounds are funny, they're not clear to you. So we can use the pocket talker to train your auditory memory and remember what sounds relate to it and what sounds sound like. In other words, be very precious of your hearing and your hearing aids. Once you lose your hearing and that auditory memory, you can't get it back.
Why did I fix that?
Another part of my responsibility as a presenter is to mention the relay partnerships. Generally what that means is I meet with different businesses and try to educate them. For example, whenever you receive a TTY call, okay, sometimes the operator, when they get a TTY call, they'll say, hello, this is the relay service. I have a person on the end of the line who wants to use a relay. Sometimes they think it's marketing. They think it's a promotional call and they'll hang up on them. And that's very frustrating for deaf people and for people with hearing loss. So part of this is informing businesses. Don't hang up. If you hear the word Virginia relay, okay, and I didn't say what kind of relay. It can be Captel relay, can be Virginia relay, can be video relay. We have video relay as well. Captions, there are a lot of different plans for relay. There are nine different kinds of relay services now. So I won't explain that too deeply. I don't want to overwhelm you with that. But I can meet the person in the business, and whatever their preference and their need is, I try to inform them about relay. Again, the relay is free, and the training of the business is free also. The benefit to the business is they become more aware. Maybe it can generate more business. Here's my business card, and it has a web address so that you can get all these deaf and hard of hearing services, BDDHH. All of those are related and are all on our website. I guess I did a good job.
There you go.
Remember that I mentioned before in explaining about the phone numbers, the legal rights, the alert things. I don't give away fire alarms. BDDH doesn't do that. Other agencies do that. You can order them from these private businesses. I have catalogs here. And you can please take these. They have a lot of information and equipment.
Oh, I have a question. Where can you learn sign language?
I learned it in high school myself. And I used speech, which was a little more oral than sign language. But here in the community, there's a college not too far from here. I think they have some sign language classes.
There's a lady that's connected to the ballet class. She is hard of hearing. She teaches. It's Clark is her last name.
Betty Clark? Daly Clark. Yes, yeah, I know her. She let me know about some of the things, and I know that she's connected to the dancing here. Her son is in school with my son. So I know her. And sometimes Park and Recreations will have a summer class in sign language. In Stanton area, there are more ASL classes than there are here in Lexington. And I don't really know of any right here in the Lexington area. Roanoke has them. Again, you can go to our website. That may help. And that has a list of classes that we're aware of. Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
Before I forget, also, we have listing on our website of basic finger spelling. So they're free, you can go to those. And they have an online dictionary, you can find that on the website. You can learn some basic signs and some basic finger spelling free online. That is one way that you can begin to learn and practice. This is the application for people who are requesting equipment. So one-page, two-page application, front and back. This is not really for you. You know, I'm not sure any of you need to apply for the TAP program, but you might want to read over what the program is. And again, it's important. I need to take the paper, you might just want to take a folder. Here's information about the caption telephone, the CapTel. And feel free, you can take those. May I ask a question? Yeah. Because I think, before, they had a special program that you buy the CapTel for like $100. Is it still? About $100. I think it's worth about $900, right? 600. It's worth $600, but there's a special program for $99. If you want to buy it for your parents, your grandparents, you can buy it for $100 yourself. Give it to them as a Christmas present or something like that. Yes.
Do you have suggestions for encouraging people who have hearing loss to get a hearing aid and wear it? The hard question.
There's no easy answer. When people become older, they become more stubborn, you know. So, I don't want to try something new. My phone looks like a computer, and some elderly people don't like it for that reason. Technology, they want to move halfway to technology. So people say, no, it's like a little computer, and I can't do that. Same thing with hearing aids. No easy answer, no easy way. The best solution is to try to encourage them to give it a try. If I can add it in, I'm an audiologist in addition to an interpreter, and we estimate that over 50% of hearing aids are in dresser drawers. It's really sad. It's really sad. She has two.
Is that a cosmetic thing or a image?
Yes, they're embarrassed. Yep. You remember $1,000 to $3,000 for a good hearing aid. My hearing aids are that. And a lot of people prefer the small in-the-ear hearing aid for cosmetic reasons. They cost even more, maybe $3,000 to $8,000. They're also not as powerful, so they may not work.
I've got tinnitus. Sounds like I'm at an airport with the jet engine running all the time. And I'm wondering, does a hearing aid help that, or is that background noise bother that?
They can't help. They can reduce the severity of the tinnitus. With tinnitus, yeah, and with dizziness too. Some people have
I'm
that.
not dizzy. It just sounds like I'm at an airport with jet engines running all the time.
Okay, good. So you don't have that part. Some people have that. And for some people, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Hearing aids will help and will also help with balance. They'll prevent the severity of the impact of the tinnitus.
That was a tracking where we had to shoot a gun a bunch of times.
Yeah.
People started sounding like Mickey Mouse when I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. Being close to gunfire is one way to lose your hearing.
Did you wear those things?
I came from where, because you got to hear people down the track. We were inside a tent, and I was shooting a 32, and when I finished, my head was just ringing, and people sounded like Donald Duck.
You were in the military?
No, I was at track meeting. I do computer computer timing, and I have a false start gun. And we were having trouble with the computer, and I had to keep shooting the gun.
Yeah, that's a good thing to know. A lot of hunters also don't use ear protection, and people from the military.
So I'm just curious, again, with the tinnitus and that background noise, being able to hear and do that. Is there any way to test that, or how that would work?
Yeah, and go check with your doctor first.
Okay.
There are some medications
So he
too.
did a test, and I was just kind of like, yeah, you got a hearing loss, come see me if it's worse on that.
But other doctors,
I need to go to your doctor.
they're getting better.
Yeah.
They're getting better at finding some medications that can help reduce the. Yes. I'm so sorry for you. But I would like to add that, especially since you're like a sister institution of VMI soldiers, almost 100% of the World War II veterans have a hearing loss because of exposure to gunfire, especially those who were in the Navy, who served on ships with big guns. You get like a 20-inch gun going off anywhere close to you, and it's going to destroy your hearing. So many veterans do qualify to get free hearing aids from the VA if it's related to combat. Yeah. If you're in the reserve, it's a little bit sticky. Yeah, the military, as you know, love their rules. But there are ways, and people sometimes, have to keep after the VA to get hearing aid help. He was talking about World War II. Same as the Afghanistan veterans that we're seeing now. Their number one disability that they have coming back home is a hearing loss. That's the number one disability. And right now, the military is studying different kinds of ear protection and earplugs. It's not fully protective, but it will provide protection against the most severe bomb blasts, but still allow them to hear people talking. So there are different ways. Some of them use medication or use drugs before they go into combat, and that will help reduce the damage to their hearing. It'll help reduce the nerve damage. So there are a lot of different ways they're doing it. They're doing a lot of testing now to see what's the best successful method for the veterans. They're doing that now. Any more questions? This is a bookmark with the fingerspelling alphabet on it. If you want to learn how to just make your ABCs, you can do it with that.